To join us too in completing this important mission, please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto. Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
You might have even heard Trey mimic the voice guy just a second ago as we welcome you into the Fast Lane. He's here. I am somewhat here, although maybe all over the place, perhaps. So much so to the point where we at least planned this. If you look at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, when we post the show rundown, it's also on my personal LinkedIn page. By and large, feel free to connect. If you're connecting because you listen, just drop a note so that I know you're not one of those bots or somebody that's trying to connect so they can then sell some random idea immediately afterwards. And I know that happens on LinkedIn, but whatever. Anyway, from that detour to this one.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
We at least planned this. So my wife and I are in this weird season of life. By the way, it's about to get even more hectic. We're in the season where she's taken trips already. Girls Weekend, Dave Matthews. I'm like, you're doing all these trips, and she had more planned. I haven't had any for myself. I don't count the business trips to the ACC kickoff, even though it's like a week-long deal now, or ACC tip-off in October for men's and women's basketball. Those are work trips. I view them separately, although I understand I'm away. She's with the kids. That creates its own challenges. So then she's like, you bring these things up, and you're like, hey, if I bring it up, then maybe I'll get the green light to do what I want for once. Although oftentimes we have a very amicable relationship, my wife and I do, where we can both kind of do our own thing within reason. But she's been more skeptical of me going on trips, more from the how much of a burden it places on her with work and the kids. And ironically, now that she's working for Brownstone Properties and kind of seeing what I go through and the value of taking some time off, she's kind of backed off that. My wife will never utter those words, I was wrong, or you were right, when it comes to something like that. So her stance changing kind of says, I was wrong, or you were right. And so I bring all that up to say she's at a Dave Matthews Band concert. My kids are with me. And it's this double-edged thing. By the way, if you are, two thoughts. One, wedding. Trey, you're not there with your lovely girlfriend, Storm. Ty is not there with his girlfriend from the morning warm-up with you weekdays 7 to 8 a.m. TJ is getting there with his fiancée, Brenda. And once you get to this point, one of the keys in my mind is being grounded enough to realize that as awesome as the wedding day is, marriage is not the wedding day. Marriage is what happens in the middle of February when it's really cold outside, everybody's bitterly, miserably cold, and your boss just yelled at you. Or like right now, where it's the dead heat of the summer, you're worn down because every stinking day is like those Dallas Cowboys as it would be peaking in the 90s.
It's looking a little bit like those Dallas Cowboys is peaking in the 90s.
And it's also humid to go on with that. And yet you also have that, plus work, plus travel schedules, and everything that goes along with that. So you're blending all of this together. And with my wife being out, I got the kids. It's a double-edged sword too. First of all, if you've had one kid, like it is not the same. Like there's this phrase in German. It's like ein Kind, nein Kind. I'm surely butchering it, but let's ride with that. And it basically means one kid is no kid. Because like one kid, I mean, it's great. It's awesome, but it's kind of a piece of cake. Once you get to 2 or more kids, that's when it gets real. Because that's when you have the first kid has to adjust to no longer just getting all the undivided attention. And you've also got the fact that sometimes mom or dad's going to be gone. Hopefully it's a good relationship where, it's stable and multiple parents and all that stuff. But sometimes that stuff doesn't happen and life gets in the way and it is what it is. So when you're in that spot, you're in the spot of, oh my goodness, now the kids realize you're splitting attention. And the one that's not getting attention oftentimes will act out, interrupt, do anything because they're jealous and they want the attention. And it's part of the growth and development. And a lot of it's just not being mature enough at young ages to understand how to do that. And it's where it's your job as a parent, my belief here, of course, that you're not their friend, then their parent, you are their parent, then their friend. And when they clash, you're the parent, not the friend. You have time to be friends later in life when they grow up and show they can be mature, productive adults. So we're kind of at that phase with our kids. And today's one of those days where I had to take one of the kids to the dentist. They're not a sponsor of ours, so no free shout outs in the fast lane, but it was a great experience. The dentist was fantastic. The staff, they were great too. And I bring that kid back to camp, which is awesome. A place where you would experience cats, dogs, and other animals. Again, not a sponsor, but you can put 2 and 2 together with that. And in dropping that kid back off at camp, the other one sees me and then he wants the attention because I just spent an hour with brother. Now he wants it and he doesn't understand that daddy has to leave to go to work. And it's that part as a parent where you're like, you feel like trash because you're sitting there going, one child you just spent an hour with, the other is jealous and you're leaving to go to work, which is a necessary thing to do. And your kid doesn't understand. And some of it's like this cat's cradle thing of like, you're spending too much time at work and you're not spending with your kids. But the flip side is, if you want to support your kids and all that they do, you kind of need to have a job, and it kind of helps to do that. And when your kids get older, as much as they'll probably resent you and maybe really hate you in their teenage years, once they get out on their own and have to start working themselves, and especially when they get married and or have kids, if that happens, then it all comes back and you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand why maybe I didn't get the full undivided attention of my parents all the time. And that's where we are with our kids. My wife experienced it last week. She'll have it again next week when we're in Charlotte for the ACC kickoff. It's my turn this week. And this is not a throw Ed the pity party here in the fast lane as much as it is just if you're a parent, you can potentially relate and understand. And if you're not, you'll understand when you get to that particular point. Or if you don't have kids, which some people it's not meant for, just take a look at the people you know who have kids and go, all right, I sympathize and now I get it. So that's our version of talking season today in the fast lane. Meanwhile, let your wallet do the talking for you at InsaneRadioDeals.com because everything is always on special at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Lynchburg Hillcats general admission or reserve seats with that food voucher. It's at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Off the normal rate price for those. Food items galore. Caribbean Jerk Pot, the Yard on 5th Street, downtown Cairo, JD's Cafe, Duck Donuts, and more. If you're ready to gear up for the upcoming football season, BNC Sports, Riveridge Mall in Lynchburg, or Valley View Mall in Roanoke, $50 gift cards, they're $33.33 at InsaneRadioDeals.com. And as Billy Mays, God rest his soul, would say, that's not all. There's so much more only for you at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Pivoting off of that to talking season about sports. So we're at this interesting spot in the calendar where you've got the SEC Media Days this week. Last week, it was the Big 12. And next week, it's going to be the Big 10 and the ACC. And from a national level, surely the Big 10 is going to get more attention. From a local level, obviously the ACC is what we care about with Virginia Tech, and other schools in that sphere. And of course, you've got your smaller conference media days that are mixed in: Conference USA, Liberty Flames, Sunbelt, JMU, and ODU. We'll discuss all that with David Schultz of the Locked On Sunbelt podcast around 5:45 today in the Fast Lane. But the big national storyline, and why it's worth paying attention to for talking season, is what it's often termed with conference media days, is because the biggest point nationally is the discussion of the college football playoff. And really what it is the SEC and the Big Ten kind of doing I'm going to get gross for a second here, but it's a you-know-what measuring contest, if you will. It's a puff your chest out of how much, as Melissa McCarthy would like to remind us,
lots of power
we have. And the SEC this week is, hey, well, we have
lots of power.
And if you
rejected
the concept of a 5 automatic qualifier, 11 at-large team playoff format, and instead want to make a change, we'll just stick with what we've got. 5 automatic qualifiers and 7 at-large formats. The SEC's fine with it. Now, I think ultimately they'd love to have more games, not just because they'll have more teams, which means more
dollar bills, y'all.
But frankly, that's what most of these conferences would like to have. But it's the Big Ten who wants to assert that they have
lots of power.
And maybe not even relative to the SEC, but to the Big Ten or to the Big 12 and the ACC and the rest of college football, certainly that is why they want to have 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC and the Big Ten, 2 for the Big 12 and 2 for the ACC, and then everybody else is an at-large, plus there's one highest-ranking Group of 5 champion. Like, personally, from an earning it standpoint, I don't think there should be a question of how this is going on so far. Because when I'm looking at it from a broader perspective, the real takeout of this is, if you're talking about just the most equitable partnership, the best teams in the playoff, rather than a charade of, well, we're going to let some Big Ten teams in who may not be all that good, but we guarantee them spots. Or frankly, in some years, like last year, the Big 12 wasn't deserving of more than 2 teams going into the playoff. They only got 1, but they were not deserving of 2 or more. There may be years, and we've seen it before, where the ACC, they've been downright miserable and don't deserve 2 or more teams. Last year, they got 2. You could make an argument maybe they only deserved 1, but I think it was fair. Clemson won the conference championship game. SMU was the best team in the regular season. Miami faltered down the stretch, not just the loss to Syracuse, but also losses to Georgia Tech and other disheartening performances that are typical of the Hurricanes late in the year as teams can adjust to that epic coaching staff of Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes. I'm not talking about recruiting and program development. I'm talking about in-game coaching, or X's and O's schematically. And that's the reality of where you are right now. And ultimately, as much as there's arguing, I'd rather just at-larges go in, because even though there's a debate, and even though that power
lots of power
is going to give the tide to the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten, the truth of the matter is I'd rather at least be able to say, hey, these were at-large teams, and while you're going to give the nod to those teams from other conferences, and I'm not disillusioned to not realize that's what's going to happen, inevitably, if you at least have a compelling case to earn it on the field, or at least watch it play out over the season, to me, that's much more exciting than wondering whether 2 teams that are 8-3, like an Iowa-Nebraska game, with all due respect to the Cornhuskers, as storied as they are, they haven't been great lately, but is this 8-3 versus 8-3 Iowa-Nebraska game late in the year normally going to put someone in the playoffs? Probably not. But might it put somebody in the playoff if you're just flat out guaranteeing spots? Sure it is. To me, that's much more manufactured. And so from a raw competitive standpoint, I go no. But from a broader standpoint, I go, oh, this is a real concern. And ultimately, those of us that want the best product in college football kind of are just left sitting there wondering when this is going to actually come to a close. My best guess on this would be as we head into the 2027 season, not only because of the artificial deadline that was put in for 2026 of the beginning of December, but going a step further, if you can continue for another couple of years under the current playoff, you're just going to get that. And you're going to see that setup, and that setup is ultimately going to yield a situation where until the college football playoff shows it can generate more money for the conferences, and ultimately more games, I think, will lead to more of that, you're going to start to see that particular scenario play out. Meanwhile, you don't want the undesired scenario to play out if you're on the roads. You want the best scenario possible, which is a safe trip and no need to call Randy Trost and the team at Trost Law, 777-HURT. But if you've been in one of those situations where you need their service and advice, injured in an auto accident, going through the rigmarole from large national insurance companies, not the great local ones like Gardner Insurance Solutions, then that's where you need to call Trost Law at 777-HURT. And you can learn more 24/7 at trostlaw.com. Of course, they are available 24/7. And if they don't get back to you immediately, they will. They have a guarantee to get back to you within 24 hours. That's part of the value for trostlaw.com. Now, pivoting off of that to Main Games Weekend. We are 2 days away from Main Games Weekend. If you think our heads are spinning in the fast lane, we're seeing her exhale in real time. Charity Waldron with us here. Charity, it looks like you're in like an office space with all of your equipment set up. Have you had a chance to catch your breath just enough to be able to make sure these main games go off without a hitch?
I'm actually sitting in Game Central staring at a couple hundred cases of water and a couple thousand medals. So it's definitely crunch time, but it'll be good.
Hello, it's here. Do you go into a different mode, by the way, when we get to this type of a week where you shift into overdrive and just hyper focus on this?
Usually when the calendar switches to July.
So Independence Day is not like exhaling for you as much as it is like catching a breath because you know it's about to be real.
Yeah, and I'm usually answering emails and stuff at all hours of the night. The other night, somebody said, "Why did I get an email from you with a timestamp that said 2:30 a.m.?" And I was like, "Sorry."
Why at 2:30? It's not even auto send, like scheduled to send. It's just, we're going to press send right now.
It's just, I was up, couldn't sleep, so send it is.
Because you're that excited, right, Charity? I mean, you got a busy weekend coming up.
Exactly. Wanting to make sure everybody's taken care of.
And a lot of the festivities begin, of course, peons like us at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. We do get to participate in the VIP ceremony tomorrow night. This is a chance to show that you'll even let in some of the low life. We raise our hands here in the fast lane. But the real fun where people can get into it, not that the VIP event isn't fun, but for the general public, is the opening ceremonies that start at 5:30 p.m. at Liberty University this coming Friday. First of all, my wife and I are in the summer, I wouldn't call them slums, but the summer challenge, the hurdles of what do we do with our kids? How family friendly is this event on Friday night with the not only the lighting of the cauldron and the opening ceremonies and the marching in, but more importantly, the family friendly events and the food that unfold afterwards?
Oh, it's 100% family friendly. There's inflatables and games and all that kind of fun stuff. It's totally focused on family. So whether that's the athletes and families competing or, the community as a whole, and it's free for the public. So, come on out and have some fun.
It's a cool experience too. This thing has grown and evolved, and we'll get to the 10-year anniversary and the transition to Richmond and a little bit later in our chat with Charity Waldron of Virginia Amateur Sports, who's hanging out with us today in the fast lane. Main Games Weekend kicks off at 5:30 p.m. at the Liberty University Indoor Practice Facility with the opening ceremonies for the Commonwealth Games. But the overall experience at Liberty University, how much has it been to a point now where the setup at Liberty, the ability to have the ceremonies and all the festivities around Main Games Weekend in one place, something that makes this an event that fans have gravitated towards and you guys have been able to build and grow over these last handful of years?
Yeah, it's amazing to have everything all in one place or pretty darn close to it. We have some things within the city, and a little bit outside of it. But, for the most part, everything is, right here on campus where I'm sitting right now. And, it's awesome to have that, kind of Olympic Village kind of feel with everything together. It is bittersweet that it's our last year here, but it's been an awesome 10 years working with, some of the best people, to do what we all do in, event planning and all of that kind of stuff. So, it's a really cool opportunity, cool atmosphere. Even if you're just wanting to come watch, like, it's cool that you can, buy weekend pass and catch baseball, softball, basketball, track all at one whack, all in one place. So it's a cool opportunity.
Well, and the setup at Liberty is so conducive. You mentioned a weekend pass and what all it entails, not just the experience, being able to watch the opening ceremonies on Friday night, but everything in the weekend. But how much of an asset is it that for fans that want to come to Main Games weekend, there's so much that's going on in such a condensed area where it's really easy to bounce from event to event and be a part of this and watching athletes of all ages and skill levels realize their goal of winning a medal.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we will have 8 basketball courts going on campus starting on Friday. 10 courts total going for the tournament. Then we've got 3 softball fields on campus, 2 baseball fields on campus. Like, everything will be going full steam ahead, track, all of it. So it's really nice, especially for some sports that you may have never seen before other than on TV. It's a cool, unique opportunity to get to bounce around and see 4 or 5 things at one time if you want to.
There's so many cool things. You mentioned a lot of sports with which people are not all that familiar. And the fact that the Commonwealth Games include so many of those events. Discus is one of those. Pickleball has become a lot of the rage recently. Racquetball and tennis have a great history. Golf croquet. Is that a new addition, or am I finally just catching on to the fact that that's been part of the Commonwealth Games?
So last year was the first year that we offered that. So it was its second year in the games. They competed 4th of July weekend, and numbers more than doubled from last year. So that was really cool. It was a, kind of interesting ad. And then they wanted to come back this year, and it's been really cool. So we we pride ourselves on offering something for everyone. And so I feel like having some of those unique, more niche sports, can provide that opportunity.
Charity Waldron from Virginia Amateur Sports with us here in the Fast Lane discussing the Commonwealth Games. The opening ceremonies are Friday night. Main Games weekend activities Friday and especially Saturday and Sunday. A lot of them, but not all of them, are over at Liberty University. Charity, you mentioned all the activities that are taking place over at Liberty University. How big of an asset, though, has the city of Lynchburg been with events like disc golf that have been a part of this, other events that have also been able to spread out and really bring a lot of attention to the Hill City?
The city of Lynchburg has been an amazing partner, from Parks and Rec to, their tourism department. Like, they've all been absolutely wonderful. And, Peaks View is a huge asset with all of those softball fields. And, the high schools having great facilities is super beneficial. We'll be using the baseball fields at both of the high schools this weekend, both of the gyms at EC Glass. So we're also using Bank of the James Stadium, where that's home of the Hillcats. We'll be using that this weekend for baseball. So it's been really fun to obviously engage in the campus community, but truly the community as a whole. And the community's really wrapped their arms around us for the last 10 years. And, it's been cool to see people discover Lynchburg that may not, be from this part of the Commonwealth. And it's been really cool to see people, choose to come back to Lynchburg and all of those things because of their experience during the games.
Charity Waldron with us here in the Fast Lane. And Charity, we asked Virginia Amateur Sports President, your colleague, Dan Fouts, about this yesterday, but Able Sports, that number is up to 7 now with Virginia Amateur Sports. How have you and your team been able to grow that and make that a more intricate part of the Commonwealth Games offerings? Is that really seems to be something that's taken off as there's baseball, basketball, bowling, plus fishing, track and field, soccer, and now wheelchair tennis also?
Yeah, it's something that, for years we've said, oh, we have something for everybody, but we were leaving out a whole population of people. And now with the addition of Able Games, we can truly say we do have something for everyone. And, that is something that we are all very passionate about. And it has been, last weekend we had our Able Baseball tournament, and we had 60 athletes that were there playing. And it was hot. It was really hot. But they had the time of their lives. And that is truly why we do it. And we've been able to grow it. And I even have some hopes and wishes of adding a few more sports that are kind of in the back of my head. And a lot of that, we have great partners in Special Olympics and a lot of the local area Special Olympics groups between the New River Valley, Roanoke, and here in Lynchburg. And as well as, Special Olympics Virginia has been a great partner in helping us get the word out. And, it's just, I think it has met a need because a lot of Special Olympics programming ends in June after their summer state games. And so us being able to provide events in the summer for them has been, meeting a need for the community. So that's been really cool too.
On a different level of meeting needs, but something that's always cool is when people volunteer with the Commonwealth Games and Virginia Amateur Sports presentation of the Commonwealth Games charity. Some events registration is closed, others it's still open. True or false? It's never closed for people who want to volunteer. They can visit commonwealthgames.org or drop you an email or drop a message, and you'll always find a way to allow them to help.
Absolutely. That is one registration deadline that never closes.
Yes.
Those are emails that I love to get. I don't have to be a bad guy in those emails. I hate can I come in late? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sorry.
Can I volunteer after the event?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no volunteers will be turned away in the presentation of these Commonwealth Games.
Charity, we'll ask this as our last one. It's the last year of the Commonwealth Games in the Hill City. It's been an awesome decade run. Some events will still be in this area, but a lot of them are shifting over to the Richmond area. What extra level of sentimentality is there attached to the games this weekend for you and your staff, but also the excitement and vibe that you're anticipating, especially as it kicks off Friday night with the opening ceremonies at 5:30 p.m.?
Lots of emotion. Very bittersweet. It's, we've known for months, but, when we announced last week at the press conference and, then the whole world knew, and it wasn't just, in my head, I think that really hit home, to a different level of, oh, this is it. I'm still going to do whatever I can to, have some events here in Lynchburg so that, we can still keep engaged in this amazing community. And, hopefully that's the case. We are excited for our partnership with Richmond and excited for what the Richmond area can offer our participants and their families. Excited for, being close to a lot of things that, a little more centralized. So we're excited, but it is very bittersweet. It's one of the, it's a catch-22. It's like excited for what's coming, but sad that one chapter has to close to a certain extent.
Well, it's been awesome being a part of the Commonwealth Games as they've been based in Lynchburg. We love the support and the opportunity. And Charity, we appreciate your time today in the Fast Lane, but all the times we have been able to and are able to catch up with you. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you, Ed.
Our pleasure. Charity Waldron with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, speaking of baseball, fan feedback on it relative to the All-Star game and the excitement around it. We'll get to that when we return on the VTR in Sports app and ask that smart speaker open VTR in Sports.
Don Pedro's army has just returned home victorious after the war. Love is in the air, even as two of Shakespeare's most tumultuous couples exchange hilarious quips and damning accusations. Will the truth win in this mischievous game of love? Find out in End Station Theater Company at Randolph College's dazzling music-filled outdoor production of Much Ado About Nothing, running July 2nd through the 20th at Point of Honor. For tickets and information, visit endstationtheater.org.
Rain takes a toll on your house, including your chimney. Even when it's not raining, prolonged humidity impacts your chimney. Don't wait for the problem to enter your house. Call Black Goose Chimney Service. Featuring decades worth of experience, Black Goose Chimney Service will assess what your chimney needs and give you honest answers. Because the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Get ahead of the problem. Call Black Goose Chimney Service and visit blackgoose.net.
Gorgeous blue waters, friendly people, the most beautiful island in the world. Getting to the Caribbean is hard, but experiencing it is easy at the Caribbean Jerk Pot. Oh yeah, come enjoy the best taste of the Caribbean with simples like jerk chicken and oxtail, authentic season, hot, mild, spicy as you like. You can order from 1 to 7 p.m. weekdays on DoorDash or Grubhub, or browse the full menu at CaribbeanJerkPot.com and call us to spice up your private event at 434-426-4047. We'll come and bring the Caribbean taste to you.
It's not too late to register for the Virginia Commonwealth Games at Liberty University and around Lynchburg. Athletes of any age or skill level can participate. Choose from over 35 sports, including tennis, softball, archery, and bowling. Win a gold, silver, or bronze medal, and join us for the opening ceremonies and tailgate party festivities. Register today online at commonwealthgames.org. That's commonwealthgames.org. It's the Virginia Commonwealth Games, brought to you by Kroger, Bedford Area Welcome Center and Tourism, and Campbell County Economic Development.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
If you're confused, I'm not the one to help. But fortunately, the host of the Morning Warm-Up in the Foul Ball Area podcast is here, and we can get to that in.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fast Lane.
So our fam, we've got lots of good ones, and we appreciate the feedback whenever it comes. Last night, Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Tied, and they go to essentially, am I phrasing this the right way, butchering it, or phrasing it correctly, but to the chagrin of Major League Baseball, basically a home run derby swing-off.
Yeah, they called it a swing-off.
Okay, that's basically... So they would, like, you know how they're upset that, like, you can't call them the Sacramento A's, even though they're playing there?
Yeah, they just call the Athletics right now. I had to look that up. I saw that the other day. So it's 3-on-3. It's essentially, as I said this morning, it's 3v3.
For home run derby.
3 hitters per, and you get 3 pitches each. And Kyle Schwarber stole the show.
Phillies, Kyle Schwarber.
You had to say that part.
I mean, I did, because they're going to choke it away when it comes to the postseason.
It went Schwarber.
And he ends up becoming the MVP at 40-1. If you bet on that, I don't bet on much of anything with All-Star games. I know some people may have an edge, and if you do, God bless you.
Despite the fact they lost last night, I would blind bet the American League to win.
Okay, interesting.
They've won after last night. They've won 10 of the last 12.
So it's interesting though, because the format to some people was confusing. I don't find it confusing. I'm not an All-Star game guy, as you would know. Of all the sports, if you ask me,
this is the best All-Star game
by far. If you were to ask me to rank like the best All-Star games, I'd put Major League Baseball. Then I would put NASCAR after that. At least it's a race, a little bit different. Nobody gets anything unless you win the race. But hey, it's a normal, relatively speaking, race format, and it's held at North Wilkesboro. And even though the racing on short tracks is not great, although that was the best one this year, it is still an awesome race venue with which to hold. So that's really cool. The other part to this, though, is just the overall hype around Major League Baseball. And, to me, football has such a built-in advantage. No matter how much they expand, and I will say this, when they expand the college football playoff to 16 teams, it will happen inevitably. When there's another round of realignment in some form in college football. And when, this is the biggest, most definite win, the NFL goes to an 18-game schedule. When those things happen, not if, but when, because they will, because there's enough
dollar bills, y'all,
to justify it, and the people who have
Lots of power.
will do whatever they can to obtain as many
dollar bills, y'all,
as possible. When that happens, there still is a level of supply and demand in football. Now, the flip side is the All-Star game in football is probably the most irreparable of all of them because it's just not going to be able to replicate anything you would find anywhere else. But feedback has come in on Major League Baseball right now. And Trey can certainly weigh in a moment with his thoughts, but, our fam, they get to chime in first. Carl chimes in on Major League Baseball and one of the challenges around the All-Star game and, frankly, the excitement right now on this empty part of the sports calendar. Quote, so this issue is with today's sports landscape. When I and friends of mine were growing up, marketing professionals in sports were unnecessary until there was competition. AFL for the NFL, WHA for hockey, ABA, as well as the USFL. There was no competition to speak of or worry about, which I think, first of all, that's a great point. Competition can breed excellence, although let's be honest, college football is probably the biggest competition to the NFL, but they will take a back seat. I think they always will just because they're so disorganized, and the NFL is the most organized of sports leagues. They are literally polar opposites in terms of which league is organized and which one's not. But extending upon Shannon's point about that, he adds, in the Southeast, it was college sports and baseball. The Cards and the Reds were favorites. They were on TBS Superstation. The Braves were. And then there's WGN, which came along and had a slew of Cubs games, and then some White Sox mixed in there as well. And then eventually you would get the national telecast, Fox on Sunday afternoons, in Major League Baseball and ESPN on Monday night. And once ESPN showed up, everything became everywhere, and that only grew, making it a bigger challenge. Programming needs have created windows of relevance in sports that none of us would ever pay attention to certain time frames and ask, why do we see certain fields and snippets, including track and field, instead of these competitions? So I will circle Carl's elaborate point about baseball and how supply and demand has been a part of this. The biggest answer is it is supply and demand. Football, even when they expand, there's only going to be so many games that they're capable of playing and that you'll be able to have. It's always going to be constrained by supply and demand, college and professional football. And that in and of itself is going to put a cap on it. Baseball, I'd love to see the regular season contracted. 162 games is too much for somebody who says that 82 in Major League Baseball and 82, soon to be 84, in the NHL are way too much as well. NASCAR to me is pushing the limits, and they're at 36 race weekends.
38. No, there are 38 race weekends.
Very true if you count the initial season opening clash and the All-Star weekend.
36 points races and 2 exhibitions.
But the biggest advantage that a sport has, and why all the others are struggling with All-Star games, it's not just marketability, it's the raw supply and demand. The NFL, it doesn't need an All-Star game. I get it. They've got it. They'll always have it around because it's got broadcast rights relevance. And even though nobody pays attention and now they call it All-Star festivities or whatever it is, there's only so much you're going to be able to have. But Major League Baseball, the All-Star game, I actually think of all the sports, it's the best one. It's played like a game. It functions like it. Again, big fan of the fact that finally we've gotten back to the point where they're not these custom uniforms, but you get to see every other team's uniform. And while I get it, the Dodgers, you could say, are basically their own all-star team to a certain extent. I like the idea of having all teams represented in an all-star game because at least it gives a level of, okay, here are some players to be focused on and monitor with other teams in other markets. I actually like that concept. I just think there's only so much you're going to be able to do when it comes to supply and demand in Major League Baseball, and even the NBA and the NHL are dealing with as well. And because of the length of the seasons, NFL, it's physicality. That's a different deal. But the NHL and NBA and Major League Baseball, the seasons are so long, a lot of the best players are going to sit there and go, hey, maybe we don't need to participate in all these festivities, and you're not getting that genie back in the bottle, which is, to me, why All-Star games, there's a cap on what the relevance is, but I think Major League Baseball has the best recipe and at least the closest to it.
Yeah, the thing with baseball, unlike the other two major sports, it's the most regionalized game. It's so regional dependent. Whereas I think the NBA and the NFL are very more national sports. The Major League Baseball is such a regional game, still to some degree, kind of like college football. And the All-Star game is a place where you come together. Now, if you're the Phillies, most of your best players on the Phillies, Zach Wheeler, didn't participate. I think you need more time off. I mentioned this yesterday, like the fact that you have the Yankees and the Braves playing in Atlanta on Friday. Like, I guess it's good for all those Yankees who are all-stars. They don't really have to leave Atlanta. Like Aaron Boone didn't have to, like the whole Yankees coaching staff was there because it's the previous year World Series managers who managed the game. And obviously Judge was there, Rodon was there. So that's a good thing. I do think you need more than a week off. I think that's what the NBA does is a week off, and that's fine. We'll see in 26. It's going to be interesting. You have the Olympics, which is returning to baseball. And as someone who personally wants MLB players in the Olympics, same like hockey, or 28 is Summer Olympics, right? 26 is winter.
28 is summer.
28
in LA.
Olympics. 28 Olympics in LA, especially now it's going to be 26 is the World Baseball Classic. And as it's seen with the World Baseball Classic, like it shows the sport of baseball, and you can even look at the Savannah Bananas to some degree, but that's more like Harlem Globetrotters-esque, that baseball still has at least relevance. It has so many games. Like the playoffs still do well, especially if you get like two big teams, i.e. the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. And so I think an all-star game is great where, one, it can tell the history of the game. It part in whatever city it's in. Like in Atlanta, they did a really good thing with Hank Aaron and memorizing the fact that he hit his 715th home run. And, I did let Philip Doss know about this so he could take notes, because if you listen to any of the morning warm-ups, when I asked the Hank Aaron question, he did not know who he was. So I told Philip Doss at Trail LVT that to take notes.
Ty versus Philip in this day in sports history is like Alabama versus Georgia Southern.
No, I would even put like even worse than Georgia Southern. It's like an FCS team.
Alabama A&M.
Yeah, that's where I'd put it. But anyway,
with all due respect to Alabama A&M fans.
Anyway, I think baseball is that you need these moments like the home run. And I do give baseball credit. I do give Rob Manfred credit, which I might be sick. I'm giving him credit. He's been able to adapt. Whereas like you look at the pitch clock, that has now allowed the sport, which I think part of it to me, like baseball, unlike the other two sports, is so much better in person than it is on TV, because you truly get the feel of the game watching it on, like hear it, like because of the way that, and that's why baseball is so popular. It's a sport built for in person and on the radio. It's not like once TV, that's why, football and like, that's why baseball has declined if we want to look really big. So the fact that now you can, if you like, for example, you and your family, you go to a baseball game on a Wednesday night in the summer, because it's going to end instead of like 10 o'clock, it's going to end at 9:30. That's way more reasonable for a family with kids. And that's what you really need to do if you're baseball.
Of course. I think that's one of the things, and it's like the Hillcats do a great job of this, but starting these games earlier so they wrap up in the 9 o'clock hour as opposed to the 10 o'clock hour, which is when you're a family with kids, you can justify being out till 9, 9:15, 9:30. When it's 10, 10:15, 10:30, and you're getting home closer to 11, it's an entirely different deal. But I think to Carl's point, I think some of it's marketability. I think some of it's just the reality of the way all-star games are now versus in prior years, and there's interleague play. It's easier to see other teams' matchups. Baseball's got its own can of worms about local TV rights and possibly pulling them together. Of course, a salary cap. I'd personally love to see it, even if it means a major work stoppage. I know that's kind of the hill on which the players' union is going to die when it comes to a labor agreement, and it's probably going to result in a strike. But and this is a Phillies fan speaking, is they're not the Dodgers, but they're on the higher end where they can spend a lot of money to obtain players, but all that is kind of part and parcel for what goes into that. When we return in the fast lane, by the way, we will shift gears over to college football. Realignment, it's official for the Sun Belt Conference. Liberty loses a competitor, but maybe not the worst one to lose. The Sun Belt gains one, maybe not the best to gain. David Schultz of the Locked On Sun Belt podcast will have his opinions and share them next here in the fast lane.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Since we've been advertising with the Virginia Talk Radio Network, we've grown at Executive Maintenance, and we need more help. Are you a hard worker looking to earn some extra money? Executive Maintenance would love to speak with you. We're adding honest, trustworthy people who have their own transportation and a good attitude. We'll check your references, so make sure you're ready to bring the right attitude to Executive Maintenance. If you bring that, then we'll bring you up to par with the skills needed to excel. Call us today and learn more at executivemaintenancelynchburg.com.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting, windows that are impossible to open and close, and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
Trey, do you think I'm making up this word, or is this a word that you would say is a legitimate word? I don't know, by the way, if it's at like dictionary.com. Or if it's in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, for those that are old enough to know what that is. I used it back in the day. Still have one, by the way. It's really
What about
neat.
Urban Dictionary?
It might be on that one. I've used that plenty of times. Sometimes my parents have used it even more with some of the words that have come out of my mouth, especially when I was a younger kid. Meh, M-E-H, meh, which is described as kind of like mediocre.
Yes, that I've used that before. Meh.
Okay, meh. So you're familiar with that, obviously.
Like it's
does it
kind of like,
count as a word?
I guess. I can Google it. Meh.
I don't know if it's like an official word or not. Again, dictionary.com might be able to tell
when
us.
I do from the Oxford language, I guess it's an actual word. I mean,
oh, it is.
Oh yeah, Merriam-Webster.
Look, those folks are credible.
I mean, I would use what you're about to talk about because you're saying Louisiana Tech to the Sun Belt was meh.
Yes, that would be.
You could also call it mid.
That's the phrase you and like younger people like to use. I'm not as hip, so
bet.
I'd like to think I'm somewhat hip, but I know I'm not on that level. Meh, mid, whatever it is. That's kind of been the general reaction, though.
Can I do my TJ impersonation while you finish your thought?
Go ahead.
Okay, you gave your point. Heard.
Yes, it is our guy TJ, who's often producing the fast lane.
His favorite word. I think that's his favorite word.
Heard.
Which, you know what? Cheers to him.
Hey, cheers to him. Prayers to him.
He's dealing with a lot worse today.
He's got some car challenges for sure. We hope it turns out favorably, but if he needs to call or visit Sheeler.com, he might be doing that or might have already done that, or maybe heading over to that sale at Magic City Auto Group in Bedford, either of those for car shopping experiences. So that's the possibility that you might be able to find. Meanwhile, meh has been the reaction from Liberty fans losing Louisiana Tech to Conference USA, and frankly, JMU and ODU fans, at least the ones that I've encountered. And if you'd like to disagree or agree, Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at gmail.com are all ways to get a hold of us. But meh has kind of been the reaction. Like, that's who the Sun Belt chose to replace Texas State with, Louisiana Tech. Geographically seems to make sense, but from a standpoint of anybody, Liberty feeling like they lost a school, the Sun Belt feeling like they gained one of the best, doesn't really seem to move the needle either way from any of those fan bases. That's been in our area. Now, somebody who has his finger on the pulse of the entire Sun Belt Conference, joining us now in the fast lane. He's stuck in traffic, which is why we're on the phone as opposed to the glorious StreamYard video look, is David Schultz of the Locked On Sunbelt podcast. David, from those that you've been able to converse with and hear from across the Sunbelt, not just in our distorted view of Virginia, Liberty and JMU and ODU, has meh been the reaction about the addition of Louisiana Tech to the Sunbelt Conference?
Oh, no. It's been anything but meh. No. It has been, nobody likes it.
So it's worse than meh.
Oh, no, it has been worse than meh. No. The people... the Eastern Division despises it. Marshall wanted no part of it. JMU wanted no part of it. The Cajuns didn't really want it, but they're accepting it. ULM wanted it because, well, now they have somebody to play that can commute. But no, anytime that I put a video or a report out there, nobody wanted it. No, it has not been received well at all. At all. It has not. It's been anything but meh.
So it's been, they would like it to be meh at the Sunbelt offices as opposed to disapproved, or as that old hair gel commercial had.
Yeah. I would say it turned a little bit more positive when it came out Friday that they had the votes, and then Monday they voted, and then Tuesday they announced it, and then the longest drawn-out process. Then they had a presser today. It's been a little bit more positive as of late, but no, initial reaction was, 10-1 against La Tech coming in.
So you brought this up when we last spoke, and it's been a point of contention as well about what the future of the Sun Belt Conference holds. Why was there the urgency to add Louisiana Tech as opposed to what a lot of schools seemingly wanted, which is, hey, if we can't get a school we like, or if we just don't like the options out there, staying at 13? Why did they feel like they had to get to 14 teams?
Well, they had a press conference today. I worked all day, so I'm going to see if we're going to find that out in the press conference. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, if they have that up somewhere. So I'll find that out from the press conference. So I'm not sure what that answer is. I'd like to know why that is the case, what the point was. I have a feeling, based on the reaction from the Sunbelt media, is that everything from the Sunbelt had been going east for many, many years, right? From, back in the day, bringing in Georgia Southern and App State, to bringing in Coastal Carolina, and then, JMU and Marshall. And then, even the only thing from the West was Southern Miss. And so I think Keith Gill twisted enough arms to say, hey, we got to get something in the West. And this is absolutely going to help ULM. And it certainly helps out the Cajuns with a rival. Up until Southern Miss joined a few years ago, the Cajuns had no rivalry whatsoever. It was amazing that they had no rivalry. ULM is not a rival for the Cajuns for whatever reason. It had been Arkansas State when I first got there, but that sort of fizzled. And so now, when I'm telling you there is, I don't like using this word, but there is absolute hate for Louisiana Tech. And it's not only from on-field stuff, but it is the administration. I'm told, I need to confirm this, but even as much as a month ago, the president of Louisiana Tech had a problem with the Cajuns using Louisiana, University of Louisiana, as a problem for Louisiana Tech. And they ran that gamut with Monroe years ago, and that was solved. So There is not love lost between the Cajuns and La Tech, which will be great for a rivalry because, that's what drives college sports, whether it is, on the big time, whether it is, Auburn and Alabama, or Georgia and Florida, or Tennessee and Alabama, Army, Navy, all these great rivalries, and the Cajuns don't have one. And now they may have two, and maybe La Tech and ULM will have one, and maybe La Tech and Southern Miss will have one, and they need one. But for the most part, I don't know why there was that big rush. And now I just saw Keith Gill said, we're good at 14, but we'll see what's happening down the line. I don't like the idea that the Sun Belt is reactive instead of proactive. The Sun Belt always waits for something to happen, and then they react. I wish they were proactive. Sometimes you have to wait, but they always seem to wait instead of going out and doing something better.
David Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt podcast with us here in the Fast Lane. You mentioned the reactive nature for the Sunbelt Conference from the Liberty standpoint, and even some schools in our backyard. I know there's the whole political side of things. There's also the financial part for Liberty University, but Liberty, Western Kentucky's had a lot of success in multiple sports. Jacksonville State's been emerging. A lot of folks in our backyard have said if you were to have added a school from Conference USA, those three, any of them would have been a better addition than Louisiana Tech. Has that sentiment been shared across all the schools in the Sun Belt Conference?
I don't think Liberty was discussed. My understanding is that they kicked the tires with Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State. That didn't get very far. Everybody thinks you can just snap your fingers and it happens. And so I didn't hear that Western Kentucky was interested. From the get-go, we knew that Louisiana Tech was interested. So remember, it has to take two to tango. I didn't hear anything about Liberty. Was Liberty interested? But in this case, I don't think the Sun Belt was interested in having Liberty. I guess it's not a cultural fit, or however you want to take that. And yes, there is a severe financial discrepancy between the schools. I mean, I saw some ACC schools that don't have some SEC schools that don't have the endowment that Liberty has. Meanwhile, some Sun Belt schools. So there would be a huge discrepancy in that. Jacksonville State, that may be a problem. That's right down the street from Troy, so that may be a problem as well. That is political, obviously, as well. So I would be proactive. I would go get 16. They're waiting for the the AAC to fall apart. We'll see what happens there with Memphis. They had their own little scrape today come out. But we'll see if something falls apart. They had problems with talking about having three teams in Louisiana. They wouldn't have had a problem with three teams in Louisiana if the third team was Tulane, because then you'd be getting in the New Orleans market compared to getting in the Ruston market. But the Ruston market doesn't move the needle where the New Orleans market would have. So I know they discussed Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State. I don't think it got further than that, and I'm pretty sure there was no discussion about Liberty.
That's amazing. Liberty. All right, we'll wrap it up on this, and we're chatting with David Schultz of the Locked On Sunbelt podcast on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville, Southside. You mentioned Liberty and not the discussion. Is the concern cultural fit? Is it, though, the politics that have been part of Liberty, probably more so in the past than they realistically are currently? Or is it more the fact that the budget is there and maybe people see Liberty as kind of the next BYU, and we've seen how BYU and schools like that have had resources to spend, and it's become problem-filled for their competitors?
Well, I do think there's a cultural issue, but yes, I think the finances are prohibitive, right? I mean, JMU has like 3 or 4 times the athletic budget that ULM has now. And what's Liberty's athletic budget compared to JMU? And so that would even be a mess. So I think, again, from my understanding, I don't even think Liberty was a possibility. Now, is that something down the road you may have to consider? You may have to consider it down the road. And sometimes, you have to do what's best for everybody, and that may come a time when Liberty is invited to join the Sun Belt.
It's crazy. We've seen how this game has changed so much, David. We'll keep it locked to SchultzyCast, Twitter and Instagram for you, the Locked On Sunbelt podcast, and we appreciate your giving us kind of an overview of the reaction, which has not been meh. It's been Well, you'd like it to have been meh if you're the Sunbelt office about these additions. Thank you for your insight today in the Fast Lane. We love being able to catch up with you, and surely the way these things are going, we'll probably have more excuses and, on the positive side, opportunities.
Appreciate it, guys. Hey, if Oregon can be in the Big Ten, anything can happen.
Most definitely. That is a possibility.
If Cal and Stanford can be in the ACC.
Probably even more so. Atlantic. Nothing says Atlantic quite like the Pacific. At least in this day and age, or the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, or whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, we'll call it a show today. Now on to VSiN's Make It Rain with Adam Shine. We're back tomorrow, 5 to 6 p.m. VTRN Sports app, and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports.
This year's NFL betting guide here at VSiN, now with a